Hey guys, um, I've been wanting to do this for a while because I guess to jump off the bat, I would, in order for me to wrap my head around stuff and I'd be alone, I would literally talk to myself. I would, you know, speak in front of a mirror and almost teach concepts to myself. And I was like, what if I just do it, in front of a camera? So that's kind of what jumped, this idea in motion. But I wanted to talk to you guys about a concept that I had been thinking about, for the past week or so. And I've talked about it to a few of my friends and I've been doing a lot of research on it. And it's so interesting. So I guess to get started, most, if you really pay attention, you realize that, most people think they have everything figured out, like they know exactly how everything works. And, they'll be so sure-minded of, how the world works. But they always, they have the same victim mentality where they, blame people for their circumstances, or it's like, hold on. Yeah, so, they have it all, they think they have it all figured out. They know exactly how the world works, and they're so, fixed-minded on how everything works. But, so our lives are, culminations of, peers, friends, family members, the school, feeding us with information that dictates our choices. It's, the information that we've been given that, gives us the mindset that makes our decisions. And so if the decisions we made based on that information puts us in a situation that we're not proud of and we're not happy of, don't you think that information and those opinions are flawed somehow? If you have a friend's parent who gives you a piece of advice, but they're not living a life that you want, you shouldn't listen to their advice, because it's not, depends on the advice. But if they give you advice on business and they're working a dead-end job that they hate, why would you take their advice? And so, if everyone around us grew up based on terrible advice, based on people who have no idea what they're talking about, who do we look to, to kind of set ourselves in motion? And a place that I always go back to, and my friends always go back to, is scripture. And in Genesis 1, God, gives us the blueprint for this, a blueprint for making better choices and making decisions that, lead us to a better future. It says it in Genesis 1:28. He says, "And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." So, first thing he gives us is, he says, be fruitful. So he says, it says be, and then 3 do's. He tells us, multiply the earth, replenish the earth, and subdue it. So 3 do's, and then have dominion. Be, do, have. That's the framework of it. So the whole concept is that, in order to have something, you must do the work in order to have it. But only things you do stem from who you are. So as an example, so in a negative sense, right? Having lung cancer like, knock on wood, this is the most drastic example. Lung cancer can stem from smoking, from an action, a do. But that smoking comes from your identity. If you don't consider yourself a smoker, if your identity isn't being a smoker, you won't smoke. Therefore, you will not have lung cancer associated with smoking. And so most people have that framework subconsciously backwards, where it's like, oh, once I have so the example that I thought of was, once I have more time, or I'll have more money, I'll take my girlfriend on more dates, and we'll be better, we'll be happier, we'll be in a better relationship. It's a have, do, be framework instead of a be, do, have. And so that doesn't make sense, because having always stems from being. Like the smoking example, if you're the same person, you will never have more than you already are. And there's a quote from Jim Rohn where he says, here's the great challenge of life. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. And the first step into changing our destiny, into having a life that we want, we have a dominion that's different than what we have now. We first need to be different than we are. We need to be greater. And there's different books that you can read that talk about this too. You want to read Psycho-Cybernetics, talks about the self-image, which is being more than you are. You can read The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy, talks about this. You will never make more than your own self-concept of yourself. And another quote that ties this is, if you want to make $1 million, you best become a millionaire if you want to keep it. Because the identity of being a millionaire, if you are a millionaire by identity, by who you are as a person, you'll stay as a millionaire. That's why athletes, rappers, lottery ticket winners, they all lose all their wealth, is because they don't have an identity. Their identity isn't wrapped up in that. They're not a person capable of holding that money. If you look at all of the most successful people, they were the person they are now way before the riches came. Those are lagging indicators. And so we need to focus on the leading indicators that result in the money coming. So there are different ways we can do this, but in terms of a monetary and finance sense, rethink how you see money. See money in a way that the rich people see money. Rich people see money as a tool. Money, it's ever flowing. It's like water. Poor people and people with a scarcity mindset don't have that opinion of money. I don't even know what they think of money. They think it like, I feel like I've been so enveloped in this process. This is the only way that I think. So it's the way that I'm gonna keep sharing. So money is like water. It's ever flowing. Think about it. I went and got coffee this morning with cash that I earned from me working at a restaurant, at a bar. And people that work downtown make money. They get it in their paycheck. They go down the street to the restaurant, spend that money. It goes from the corporate to the employee, to the restaurant, to me, to the coffee shop. It's ever flowing. It's money is never stagnant. It's like a river. It touches all different points and it's a cycle. It's the concept of money changing hands, and the rich people understand this. and they don't sit on money. There's a clip of Scrooge McDuck talking about, Scrooge McDuck is, I think, the wealthiest fictional character, probably, and talks about it. Like how water circulates the earth, money circulates, flowing in and out of your bank account. I'm getting on a sidetrack here, but you need to think of things differently in order to have different things. And so we all want to be successful and rich and wealthy, but you need to have the identity of the rich, the wealthy, the high performers in order to have those things. So that's the first thing. The concept is that we need to be different in order to have different things. And it's a process that, I've been trying to use that's allowing me to become different and to, be more than I am, to change my identity around my skills, my character traits, who I am, like changing who I am so that I do different things so that I have more. And the first step we can do is using the power of imagination. And the way that I've been doing this is you do it through research. You do it through a ton of research, learning through different people, taking the concepts that they have, or like the qualities and the character traits that they have, and putting them out on paper. And so what I do is I have it's a tribe of mentors, and it's a list of not fictional and non-fictional characters that have qualities that I want to possess. So think of, characters that I have that seem kind of popular there's Marcus Aurelius, there's Jordan Peterson, there's Aang from Avatar, there's Naruto, people from anime, from TV shows, real life people, real life thinkers, like Jordan Peterson, Marcus Aurelius. I have Patrick Bet-David, Tim Ferriss. I have a huge list of people that are both real and fiction. And, I pick pieces of their character that I really like and I want to embody, and I get them down on a single document. And it's, it allows you to almost, design who you want to be, like a video game character. And you create this persona of the person you want to be, the types of things that they do and how they act about certain things. And the example that I have with Aang is, I want to be more gracious. I want to give people second chances. I want to be more forgiving. I want to be inventive and creative and think of new ways to do things. And the example is, at the very end of the show, when Aang has this moral struggle of, the only way to defeat the main antagonist is to kill him. And he's like, I can't do that. And he invents a new way of bending so that he defeats the antagonist without killing him. He essentially removes his firebending, which is unheard of in the universe. It's completely created. So it was insane amount of inventiveness and, forgiveness, which I envy and I want to embody in my day-to-day life. And so what does that look like for you? What is that list of mentors that you look up to, you aspire to be, you'd see on a show, where it's like, oh, wow, I wish I acted like that guy. I wish I had that courage. I wish I had that creativeness. And so I think that's a first step, creating, using people in your life as, like a basis for who you want to be. And so the next step falls into it is, being unified with your mind, body, and soul, and eliminating doubt. You know, I picture doubt as, I learned this from a podcast, doubt is like a person in your boat rowing the opposite direction from where you want to go. It just keeps you stagnant, and there's not as much progress in that person. And so it could be self-inflicted doubt, it could be doubt from other people, it could be doubt from your family, from your partner, from coworkers, from influences in your life that prevent you from going where you want to be. And it's like, if you want to be, an example that I have, I've had a lot of this mental roadblock where it's like, I want to be someone who goes and takes on more adventures. I want to have stories that I want to tell. I want to have an abundance of stories. So that, like during dinner time, I would like bring it up and we'd have a good laugh. And I would, I want to be a good storyteller. And the way you be a good storyteller is by telling good stories. You need to be somebody that has an abundance of stories. And story comes from risk. And so in order to have stories worth telling, you need to be in a risk-averse environment. And in hindsight, I would think to myself, I would overthink what if this happens, booking a trip, I'd be like, I don't have the money. What if this happens? I'm going to be so behind on work. And that's the doubt. That's what's holding a lot of us back. It's the person in our boat rowing us away from the person we want to be. And that's why the second step of figuring out where you want to go, you need to kick that person out of the boat so you can start rowing. And that comes with time, for sure. It's not a quick fix. So, just get yourself in the motions of rowing and, sit in silence, and journaling helps a lot. Journaling and meditation, figuring out what those doubts are, why you feel them, and working at them so that you become completely acceptant on all the circumstances that you can start moving to that person. Which it brings us into the next point, because after we, had to do all the mental work, what we can do now is we start to speak it. And I wrote this in my newsletter. I dive into this more in my newsletter, so if you're interested, check it out, subscribe to me. It was my first one I ever posted, so I hope you enjoy. There's a scene, there's a post-fight interview with Conor McGregor, and the reporter was referring to, before the fight, another press release, and Conor described exactly what he was going to do in the fight and then did it. And the same reporter was like, he brought up exactly what Conor McGregor said and was like, how'd you do that? And Conor said, if you can think of it up here and you have the courage to speak it, it will happen. And so the next stage after we eliminate doubt up here, the next step is to, speak it into existence. That sounds a little bit cheesy, to speak it into existence, but it's more so your speech is the verbal representation of your current identity. And so if we want to be a different person, we need to speak differently. I remember back in a time where I was in middle school and high school and I would play on Xbox. The party, the Xbox parties would be crazy because I would stutter and I would get flamed. I would get actually flamed. And that's what I always hated about myself was my speech, my communication. And presentations in high school and middle school, I would be, in college too, I would be so nervous to speak because of stuttering, because of forgetting my lines, making a fool of myself. And that was a reflection of my identity, of who I am. I was so insecure about, the topic at hand, the topic that I was researching, of myself. I was so shriveled and ashamed and afraid. And so, if we want to take a look at who we think we are now, look at our speech. Look at the words you say on a daily basis, who you talk to, how you talk. I think, like the universe is a mirror. So our physical reality is a reflection of who we are. And a leading indicator of that is the words we speak. And so, I wrote this in my newsletter, but it's like, dude, words are seeds. And, if, you make a mistake and you say, I'm so stupid, that's a seed you plant in your own mind. And it reinforces an identity, a false identity. And so we only want to do things, we only want to sow good seeds in ourselves and in other people. Christ says this in the gospel. He says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so after we do all the inner work, then the verbal work starts. So yeah, after that, you move into the only other stage you have left, which is action. We do all the work up here. We get this right. We get our own self-image right. We figure out the person we want to be. There's zero doubt. We're aligned with ourselves and our higher power. We're aligned with God. Everything that we want to be is everything that God wants for us. We have zero doubt in our lives. We speak it into existence, the person that we want to be, through intention here and the intention here. Then it stems into action. And it's like the person that we want to be, what are the things that they do? If you want to be a leader, take on more initiative at work, at school. If you want to be more forgiving, show gratitude and forgive people and understand that people make mistakes. It's then stems to action. The bridge between here and the physical reality is action, because action comes from here. We can control our action. We may not control a lot of our current circumstances. We can't control politics. We can't control the media. We can't control the government, economics, the country we're born in, but we can control our actions. We can control what we do. I came down to school in 2020. I came from New York to Florida. That was my decision. And that resulted in me having so much more growth in Florida than I would have had in New York, because New York shut down for 2 years. And Florida, COVID didn't exist. We were all fine. And so while everyone else was stuck in their house for 2 years, I was going out, socializing, going to the gym. I had that growth that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And that all stemmed from my decision to leave out of New York. And so look at your situation and look at the smallest actions that you can do that would over time result into your change in circumstances. Everything we do stems from action, which stems from here, who we want to be, our own self-identity. You know, this is a little bit long, I would say, so I'm gonna leave this off here, but just act. Just figure out who you wanna be. You know, if you look at, Andrew Tate does this. He had a course called the Iron Mind Program. And the first thing you do is you create basically a villain. And this villain is everything you wish you were, everything you wanted to be. And your goal is to compare yourself to that person every day. What are they doing that you're not doing, that you should be doing, that you need to be doing right now? And it's every day you need to be beating your villain. Every single day. You know, how are they hitting the gym? How are they treating their loved ones? You know, that's the person you need to compare yourself to, getting closer to every single day. And that leads into actions. Let's go out there. I was gonna quote a mentor, but never mind. You don't need much else. You have the keys. Let's do it.